Welcome back to the Bearded Bros Golf Show. I'm Rod,
And I'm Marcus.
and a little bit different scenery from me this week. I am traveling and on the road, in San Antonio, while our hometown Cowboys are playing in New York and currently dominating the New York Giants. And that's the theme for this show: is do people care more about football right now than golf? Now that football is in full swing, college kicked it off last. Golf is, starting to catch a back seat, at least until the Solheim and Ryder Cup come into play. At least there's a lot of golf being played this week, but it feels again just kind of secondary, even
Yeah.
even a little bit in my life. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
No, for sure. I mean, even at work, like tea times were just dead today. I mean, they cut off real early yesterday. I mean, everybody's trying to get home to see to see what's going on with the games and stuff. This stuff
Yeah.
doesn't even matter anymore, bro. For real. Well, it matters, but not as much, not nearly as much, man. For real.
No,
Cowboys out
no.
there
I
doing their
mean,
thing.
I know we care about baseball to a certain degree, but for us, not as much as golf and
Facts.
even tennis yesterday with Coco Golf taking her
Great
first
match.
major. It was a good tennis. Big swings with Coco having a pretty poor first set and then getting her stuff together in the second and really dominating the third. At that point, had fully swung
Definitely.
from a momentum standpoint. But yeah, like I even tuned into that for the time that it was on and ignored football. I kept wanting to tune in to the Kroger Queen City Championship, and
Yeah, the
didn't really
LPGA
catch
stuff.
any.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't even really catch that until today with the them ending in the playoffs. So yeah, I think the answer for us at least is that football is fully taken over at this point, and
Facts.
it is what it is, right? That's America, and it may be different overseas where people don't really give a dang about American football, but we're gonna rock with it. We're gonna be here
Very
consistently
true.
no matter what. And so most of the views might come after the fact, and the afterplay when we re-upload and all that jazz. So anyway, let's get into it. So I'll just start off with the whole LPGA deal. Um, we've talked about this all year, particularly last couple of weeks, is consistency. And you know, this week Minjee Lee won in a playoff, two-hole playoff versus Charley Hull, and it was pretty good golf down the stretch in terms of the competition side of it. Minjee Lee kind of faded. Charley Hull in turn had a really hot back nine, birdieing
Yep.
14, 15, and 16 to force the playoff. So good golf to get to that point. But again, we have Minjee Lee, who's had a pretty subpar year for her standards, to finally get her ninth win on tour. She's 27 years old, but again, we just have this incredible parity where people are playing like kind of trash and they come up and win, and then we'll see again if she's going to fall off because her play
Right.
up to this point really hasn't shown that she's going to sustain this. And another name that was near the top of the leaderboard was Arya Jutanagarn. Hadn't seen her playing well, former number one as well, but had a pretty good week and just hadn't seen the Jutanagarn sisters at the top of leaderboards very much these last couple of years. So, what do you think about Minjee Lee and Charlie Hull kind of competing down the stretch?
Big fanboy of Charlie Hull, but also a big fanboy of Minjee Lee. Minjee Lee's swing is just amazing. I mean, like when you talk about depth and width with a swing and then creating a lot of speed, I mean, she's one of the big hitters on that tour, and she's probably again one of the tiniest people on the tour, still hitting it a mile and a half. So I definitely was enjoying that, and I'm glad that those two people, me more so than anybody, was in the playoff. But yeah, I'm glad Minjee Lee is trying to get some form together. Always looks good on her. Charlie Hull trying to get ready for the Solheim Cup. They're a week out. They have one more event
Okay.
this week, and then everybody's traveling over to Spain for that. So should be a pretty jam-packed 2 weeks for the ladies, and hopefully, again, just as we always speak on, hopefully they can get some positive momentum to where they can get some attention on them. We can start talking about them and have, you know, and I think what it comes down to is every sport and every, major, category of sports is going to have hot topics. But something is really popular when we're looking for all the side stories of what's going on. There are no side stories to LPGA. There is no side drama. There is nothing we can pick at. We're steadily
Yeah.
picking at side articles for the PGA, and it reflects all the time when we go through this every Sunday or Monday. But that's what I'm looking for, and I just thought about that. But like in the last few days, and since you dropped that our YouTube video, shameless plug about LPGA being on the struggle bus. Just by the way, you might want to check out our
Yeah.
YouTube part for the course, just so you know. But that's what it comes down to for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I agree. There's not a lot of drama or, and maybe it's just the fact that media just doesn't give it a lot of attention. And,
True.
again, that's just one of those additional things um, that LPGA kind of lacks in terms of not necessarily drumming up drama, but attention, having stories and articles written about it. And yeah, it's just not, I found, this article today about the Solheim Cup being played 2 years in a row as a result of COVID. I had no idea about that up until this point, which makes
Right.
sense, right? Because typically, we did mention, I think it was a few weeks ago, that it was weird that Solheim and Ryder Cup were being played in the
Yeah.
same
Same
year.
year. Hmm.
So now we know, they're going to then try to offset that again, and looks like they're going to switch the evens and odds as it, had been
Good.
different in the past. So that means Stacey Lewis and Suzanne Pedersen are going to retain their captainships going 2 years
For
in a
next
row,
year too.
which
Yeah. Hmm.
which I hope no one has a bad, captaincy and that becomes kind of awkward or, doesn't
Right.
necessarily jive with the players and there's conflict. That could be ugly, having to stick with the same captain for 2 years. I get it for continuity. Um, but again, if it's not close or if a team gets blown out, that could be very ugly down the road if next year they have to repeat. Um, but who knows what the players are going to look like. As we've said, it could be a completely different team next year for each squad because there is
True.
no consistency in the player mix on the LPGA. But that's neither here nor there, and I agree with you, man. It's just, yeah, we're kind of grasping at straws. We want to love the game of, the LPGA, its league and what they have to offer because the play, when you watch it from a quality standpoint, they get a lot out of their games. Like you said, Minjee is super long. You look at kind
Yep.
of athletic prowess, Charley Hull, when she swings a club, you can tell she's an
Right.
athlete. She goes after the ball. There's no kind of, there's a lot of hit in her game. She's going at the ball. She's not
Yeah. There's no
finessing
pullback.
it. No.
You
So it's
agree.
just like you just want to see people perform consistently, though. I think Charlie Hull's had a pretty decent year, all in all. She's kind of fought at the top of some leaderboards. Really hasn't been able
Yeah.
to pull through, but I think she'll perform well and will be in good form. So it looks
Agree.
like as I was kind of peeping the schedule, they don't have anything this week. It's like they're going to be, of course, prepping.
Oh, okay.
Yep, they're off for a week, and then they come back to Arkansas the week after to play in the Walmart Northwest Arkansas Championship. But open week, which makes sense, right? Before the Solheim Cup, you don't necessarily want to be
It does.
teeing it up. They have all the festivities, travel, and whatnot. Unless they were going to schedule a tournament overseas, doesn't really make sense. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see how things pan out over there, and you know, hopefully we have a good Solheim Cup with a lot of competition, good play, and they're able to showcase themselves and put themselves on the map with that showcase week. So
Yeah.
this week, in Ireland, they played their Open, the Horizon Irish Open. Went into today with Rory tied, not tied, but near the top of the leaderboard. Um, Quickly grabbed the lead, and then they went into a rain delay. Rory just did not have the fastball. Um, I was
No,
watching live, woke up, and kind of later this morning to see him on seven throw it in the water on a
right
four,
off the
which was
bank.
yeah, it was just a poor swing, a little weak right, and which he was missing weak right today, which was just pervasive in his game. Again, kind of struggled, got strokes back, lost a couple, bogeys or whatnot. Got down to 16, par five, going in and attempting to get it in two. Had water right again, another weak right with the wood. Put it in the water. Went to a drop zone. Put it in the water again. It wasn't
Mm,
even close. Ended up with a
mm,
triple bogey, and honestly was really close to having a nine. So walked away with the snowman with the long one putt after he came out of the bunker. Kind of an overreaction to his previous shot, which went in the water. So um,
yeah.
I don't know, man. Rory again. I don't know if he's just kind of metering himself and trying to pace himself out. But at the end of the day, I want to give props to the guy who actually did win, which is that Norman gentleman who won earlier this year on the PGA Tour. I'm going to look up his first name here. I don't want to slide him too much. But what do you think about kind of Rory or kind of Norman winning his second tournament? He looked the part earlier this year when he won on the PGA.
Yeah. He is a European guy, so him winning across the pond is good. I mean, it'll look good for him if he can continue this and try to get on European tour and get some points so he can get on the Ryder Cup after, getting to a couple of victories and stuff. So that should look good on him. And yeah, I mean, pretty much after the rain delay and Rory, flopping it into the water, I tuned out. So good on him for winning. I mean, you know me, I'm sad. I'm sad that it
Yeah,
happened to Rory and but it is what it is.
yeah,
I
and
agree. I think it's an overcompensation from what happened the last time he played with his bad back. I think he was trying to fire the hips. You know what I mean when I say he's trying to fire the hips too much. And he was
mhm,
leaving out everything right because, you're not compressing the ball like you usually do. You're not
yeah,
coming down on it, closing the face, and, pinching it, as we say. So, yeah, definitely, I feel like it's an overreaction from him and hopefully he doesn't overreact, come Ryder Cup. But again, when you're playing in a team event, they're not going to need him to hit, 100 shots perfectly. They're going to need him to hit, 30 to 40 good shots and then a couple of putts. And then, you know, all things considered, he could still end up having a good Ryder Cup, even if he does go in the water a few times. So it,
yeah.
it you got to take it with a grain of salt. Hopefully it doesn't just for the sake of the competition. Hopefully, it doesn't, swell over into what he has going over, at the end of the September and stuff like that. So, but good on
Yeah.
Norman.
Well, the one thing that I was thinking about with Rory in particular is the fact that the caddying situation. And I don't know if Harry Diamond has a voice in that relationship. And I don't even really want to say that he's qualified to be there at the highest level of the game, other than he was Rory's
Mhm.
boy. I know he played golf, but being a caddy is a little bit different than playing out of your own bag. That's different. You have to have some wisdom, the ability to talk your player out of bad decisions. And it just seemed like
Yeah,
if your guy is missing right all day, uh, take the 3 wood out of his hand. Have him hit an iron layup. I know it's sexy to go for it in two or whatnot, but it was a hard hole to hit. It was not one that just 18 was people were going into 18 at this tournament with irons, but this on
yeah,
16 was a really long carry, and people were not just nailing it, and it was deep into the green. I just feel like at a certain point you call him off, and I feel like that's when you look at Rory's game when he doesn't have his fastball, his best game, he's still competing around the top 10 every single week, and maybe he gets him over the edge when you have a veteran caddy, excuse me, who can call you off and have you make better decisions. They were showing some playback from the same site years ago with his old caddy. I think his first name was like PJ or something, but you can just tell like there was a different relationship between Rory and him and Rory and Harry Diamond. So it's just something that I think over time has plagued his game and held him back from winning some bigger tournaments when we kind of grunt and growl and want him to win. So maybe I'm looking too deep into that, but Rory stands here, so that's why we kind of hit on this and obsess about it a
Yeah,
little.
I, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, but shout out to our random fan that always says we need to disagree more. I think I got to look at it from a different perspective here. I think when you're mid 30s now and you've just played the game for so long, sometimes you don't need a Jerry like he had before. Because I think what happened was when you're young and immature and you're always, balls to the wall, you feel like you need to be dialed in. But, when you get older, you've been around the sun a few times. I feel like Harry Diamond, not necessarily as far as like for him winning, but for his mental, it's probably the best thing because you don't always want somebody that's going to be in your head and what are you thinking here? And, sometimes when you're that good and you've been a prodigy for that long, you just need somebody to hand you the club. Okay, well, give me the numbers. It's a 240 shot. Okay, yeah, I know you can press that four, but do you really want to do that? I think you could just chop a 5 wood or something like that. He might not always want to hear that. He might want to just be like, all right, it's a 240, it's downwind, and he's like, what you think? All right, boom. And then they go on about their business.
Yeah,
Maybe he doesn't want somebody that's gonna veto his shit stuff like Bones or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So I get what you're saying, but maybe he just wants somebody to hand him the club. So it could
you might
go.
be
It's a slippery slope. It's a
Yeah,
slippery
I mean
slope,
it's been years now at this point, and he's
right?
been
Because
hanging in there. So
2017, 2018, or something like that, they broke up. It's been a
yeah,
while, and
yeah,
to say, and also they kind of had a spat too, because Rory's not necessarily like he wasn't always the coolest and calmest of guys. He still has his little rants and his little
yeah,
temper tantrums, and bro was probably done with that stuff. He's like, bro, I'm too old for this. Like, we can't just be arguing and pity pattering and stuff like that, bro. Like, I'm good. Like,
yeah,
I can go.
yeah.
I've made my money, bro. Or I can
Right.
go. I can go over here, back over to Europe, and get just a little money for DP World Tour and be just fine. So, you never know what's happened. Again, the side drama. We don't have,
Yeah,
this is what I'm talking about.
yeah. There's some additional stories. It's the relationships on the LPGA are so with caddies. It's just so weird because it's like a bunch of older guys and young
Yeah. And then the
players.
younger ones are always somehow involved with one of the players. And then you caddy for somebody else, but you married to somebody else or you dated somebody else. And they all in
Yeah,
the same like feature group somehow all the time. Like
yeah.
Corpus's caddy is Cupcho's husband. And
I didn't know that.
they've played in multiple groups together. You always wonder like how they meet like on 18. Like, are y'all gonna hug and kiss, or like are y'all just gonna hug like y'all just like regular player caddy? Like, what's up? That stuff
Yeah,
like that goes through my head. And they like literally just played together. I don't know if they were paired together Thursday, Friday before the cut, or if it was Saturday that I saw them, but they
like just
were
by
in the same crew.
happenstance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So update on the Cowboys. Up 19-0 now. So they kicked a field goal since we've been talking. So comment here. Go Cowboys.
You
And
know it, huh?
also yay Coco. Yeah. So we hit on that
Shout
early
out
on.
Coco.
Alrighty. Next week, the Fortinet Championship. I don't know why in my brain I thought it was this week, but it makes sense to have it 2 weeks before. So we have Max
Right.
Homa, Justin Thomas, and a bunch of other guys. It's the note that I put on the show notes today was that golf is hard, And so all these guys these names that you're used to, that we've gotten used to seeing on the PGA Tour, that are now kind of hanging on to their card and playing these kind of off week events or off
Yeah.
season fall kickoff events. It's very interesting. Like a guy, like I think about a Ryan Palmer, who hasn't won in a while, right? Super
Yep.
talented, and has full control of his game. It seems like all the time, but just it's not someone who's just pouring in birdies anymore, or not at the
Right.
same level that guys are, that are younger and are hitting it longer. It's definitely a young man's game.
Yeah.
As people hopefully shift their perception of what golf is, it's definitely not one where you can play at a high level on the PGA Tour till you're 50, and then I feel like people are getting pushed into the kind of doldrums, and then kind of have to
Yeah.
hang on between 43, 45 to 50 until they get to the Champions Tour. I think the one exception that I think about as an older guy is Stuart Sink, who's still playing at
Yep.
a very high level as an older guy. Competes, near top tens, a handful of weeks throughout the year. And we're not talking about little bootleg events, but named
Yeah.
events. He's really the exception when you think about it. And maybe that's because he's taller, can generate more club head speed. But we talked about this with the Ryder Cup picks, is like a Zach Johnson. We haven't seen him really, really compete and just play very well. I mean, he's steady,
Right.
but he's not blowing it out of the
Yeah.
water. What do you think about that, man? These older guys are just barely hanging on.
Yeah. I think, they were honestly, it's kind of unfortunate because they're kind of like in that middle generation between the game being an art and the game being a sport. You know what I'm saying? They were in
Mhm.
between on that transition. So a lot of those guys, they didn't really get in the gym like these young guys are. And they didn't really have, and they just have that super homemade aesthetic.
Yeah,
Ryan Palmer is a crazy dynamic to me. That
yeah,
guy has it's not even technically sound. It's it's flat, the club is shut, but his tempo is great, his rhythm is great. He
yeah,
plays Texas golf. He plays that low, boring draw, and it just, I mean, it's you can count on it. Even
yeah.
his putting stroke is really good looking to me. It just doesn't produce birdies. He's got that cute little forward press before he does every putt. It always comes off the
Why,
face,
why,
all
why does it
flexing.
have to be cute? Why does it have to be cute?
I mean, you want me to call it sexy, run? I
No,
mean,
I'm just
come
saying.
on.
I get what you're saying, but
Nah,
yeah,
it's
he's a
definitely cool.
traditional. He's a traditional golfer, right? Everything
Yeah.
about him is traditional.
Yep.
Um, Yeah, so let me just go through some of these names, right? So these are some 2-year exemptions, and these names, again, there's some mixed in there that are some younger guys, but this is okay. So we have Akshay Bhatia, who
Yep.
won earlier this year. Cameron Champ, which I'm still waiting for him to just like figure this out. He's just too long and too talented to not play well consistently. Stuart Sink, Joel Damon, Cam Davis, Tyler Duncan, never heard of him. Nico Echeverria, I think he won earlier this year. Brian Gay, putter extraordinaire, still hanging in there with a career. Lanto Griffin, who had a run a few years ago. Nick Hardy, Lucas
Mm-hmm.
Herbert. Here we go. I'm going to start naming some randos. Jim Herman, I feel like he's been on tour since before I was born, but still
Yep.
hanging in there. Older guy. Matt Kuchar, of course, who's kind of long in the tooth at this point. Andrew Landry also had his time in the sun a couple of years ago. Luke
Mm-hmm.
List, which he's a super talented dude, but again, kind of getting folded up by some younger guys coming in, taking position. Luke List had a little window where he could have really taken
He
off.
did.
Bigger guy and has the power, but again, you got to figure out a way to win. And
Never looks like he's even swinging hard.
no, no, Robert Streb, no glove, Robert Streb, Brendan
Oh
Todd,
my.
Richie Wawrinski from the what is that show?
Big break, the big
Big
break.
Break.
Same.
Big Break. Richie
Hey,
Wawrinski.
shout out our guy Clay Myers. Same season. Those are our
Yeah.
guys, bro. Forever,
Yes.
man.
Jason Duffner had the same body type like, since he was like 12. I think
Golly,
Jason Duffner's had a gut. Zach Johnson's
tried to
playing
get
it.
skinny.
Yeah. Zach Johnson's playing in the dang Fortinet Championship this week. So again,
For
you kind of
what?
get the pattern. You get the pattern of the type of player that's out there on the Fortinet, in these type of events and trying to just, I guess, gather as many points as they can in the early
Yeah,
season because, yeah, the opportunities are going to get real slim here. I told you that crop coming up from the Corn Ferry Tour is going
Corn
to be
Ferry,
pretty
PGA Tour
formidable.
U. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, and then you have some. Let me pull up the notes. Some injury guys as well that are. Ooh, that list is really sad, and I found this very interesting. Again, side stories. PGA has a bunch of side stories. Here's some
Yep.
medical extensions that we're going to see people trying to hold on. This is the tail end of their career. Nick Hardy,
Yeah.
not super familiar. Scott Gucheski, have no idea who that is. Chris Stroud, Kyle Stanley, man. I feel like, man, at one point in time, that dude's like club head speed was ridiculous, but I also think he was a little too aggressive for like his back. Brent
Yeah.
Snedeker tried to make a little bit of a run last year. Um, Zach Blair, Chad Collins, and some other ones. Bud Colley, which I feel like he's
Really.
exhausted most of his medical
I was
exemptions at
about
this.
to say. I was about to say, didn't he already use one?
Yeah, yeah, I'm surprised at that one. JB Holmes, which we haven't heard from him in like 5 years, other than some
Don't want to
story I
hear
saw
from him
last year.
again.
Yeah, he's a slow play king. And Tyler McCumber, Bronson Burgoon, Tim Wilkinson, and another one I don't know, Vince Covello. So again, just some
Brun-
some weird. Go ahead, Burgoon.
Burgoon is a one hit wonder. Remember, he
Yeah,
made that big claim to fame because he played with Tiger for those couple of rounds in like the PGA. When
yeah,
PGA was when Ty that this was 2018 when he was really making a run, Tiger. And he
yeah.
had like they had him in like the third round. He started out decent. He just fell off the planet. I
Guess we
mean,
know it's injuries,
crazy
right?
stuff. Yeah.
Injuries. So yeah, so that's the that's the lineup for the Fortinet. I'm interested to see what form we see from JT. We've said that multiple
Yep.
times at this stage. Will he step up to the plate? I think there was some rumors and kind of again side stories about or questions about his dad still coaching him, and if that was still the case, his dad said that's a dumb question, or of course I am. Um,
Right.
what has he been working on? You saw, I think, a picture this week of him working with all kind of contraptions and trying to just
Right.
show that he's living the life. I just want to see you play good golf. That's all I want to see. Um,
For real.
that you have what it takes for a couple weeks when we need you during the Ryder Cup. And Max Homa, is he also going to be playing well? Finish the Tour Championship okay, playing okay. But
Yeah.
two-time defending champion at the Fortinet, can he pull it off three in a row? That would be pretty nuts, even in an off-field event, just to win anything 3 times in a row. Because again, reiterating the point, golf is hard. Um,
As hell.
exhale. So will he be able to do it and pull it off? We'll see. No harm, no foul. You sent me a story earlier this week. Before I transition, anything else you want to say on Fortinet before we move on?
Um no. Oh, also I meant to say, like as far as like when we're talking about older guys still staying young or trying not to get passed over, you gotta think about it. Stuart Sink got his kid on the bag. I think that
Hmm.
has a thing to do with it. It's keeping them inspired, keeping them youthful, keeping them young. And he's trying to be in the weight room with little bro. So I mean his kid's like 23, 24, stacked just like him. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think that could be something playing into what is helping out Stuart Sink. But I'm
Yeah.
definitely ready to get on that article that we were talking about earlier this week.
Yeah, and just to follow up to that, he's got a super fluid swing, so nothing that's, he's never really dealt with any major injuries, and
Right.
just doesn't go super hard at the ball because he doesn't have to. Doesn't ever feel like
Yeah.
he's just gotta just go 100 miles a minute. So I think that's played a large part of his
Shell
longevity.
Houston Open. Shell Houston Open, my first one I went to with Uncle Al. Shout out Uncle Al. 2013, him and Bill Haas. They had, me trying to follow people that, predicate some different, similar to what I was doing,
Hmm.
6'2", 6'3", 6'4", whatever. Those guys, I mean, you hit it out the middle of the face with 80% like they're doing, easy stuff.
Easy
Easy stuff.
power.
Right. So Stuart Sink, I mean, they played this one hole and, didn't even look like he was aimed where he was aimed. And I mean, he shot it over this like forced carryover water to like cut the corner. I mean, and
Yeah,
did it and just walked off. And him and Bill were just, they're guys. They're like the homies, I'm pretty sure, at least at that point, because every tee box, they just be walking off and right back in the conversation like nothing was happening. Like they're not
yeah.
playing for like a smooth 1.8 million purse. You know what I'm saying?
That's
So definitely.
speaking of older guys. That's another name blast from the past is Bill Haas. I hate that he hasn't. He's been struggling with injuries as well. Um,
Yeah. Since that car
so
wreck or something like that. And he's been on the Corn Ferry trying to get back into shape. I'm pretty sure I saw his name on a Corn Ferry tour event or something
mm,
like that. But of course, he's probably still got enough status to in exemptions to get in on these
yeah,
like mid-tier PGA events and stuff like that.
he's got 6 career wins and $31 million in career earnings. So yeah, there's some
Yeah, he's fine.
kind of he's got some exemptions that he can dig into the crates on and um, get some additional starts to keep his
Yeah.
career going. Um, Story you sent me was about something we talked about probably about a month or two ago. It feels like it's been a while. So much has happened since then, but it was Brooks Koepka vocally, publicly calling out Matt Wolff for quitting, having a negative attitude, not putting in the work, and a number of different things that just kind of painted him as a not ideal teammate. We know he struggled with mental
Yep.
health throughout his career, came out hot, won at age 19 at the 3M Open, and then kind of flamed out shortly thereafter, right? I think there
By
are probably some,
21.
yeah, I think there are some questions about his love of the game of golf. That does is he just super talented and plays it because it's an avenue, it's a way to earn money, or does he love it? Who knows, right? And I'm sure that can go
Yeah.
with how his mental health goes. But George Gankis, his longtime coach has been with him since he was age 13, and George Gank is widely respected in the game of swing coaches. Doesn't change or overhaul people's swing, kind of rolls with what they have and gets the most out of their talent and avail. Just why overhaul a swing if it works? If you can get the ball to do
Yeah.
what you want it to do, why do you need to change the backswing or whatever the case may be? But essentially, he said that the Kepka call out, although he didn't agree with the method, was probably good for Matt Wolff long term and has probably helped him refocus and get his stuff together. Just kind of lit that fire underneath him. What do you think about
Yeah.
it? I know we kind of had our background conversation, so I know how you feel about it. But tell the folks your perspective on this.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes back into what we always refer, and it's how you grew up. It's how you kind of react to these types of situations. Because when it comes to things like, hmm, give me one sec. For some, please get me out of this.
Okay.
I got a call, and MacBook, it just doesn't do anything but just go straight to that. So I'm trying to get back into my Chrome. Okay, cool. Sorry.
Oh,
I probably
okay.
didn't even get
It
muted.
didn't even come
But
up. You're
anyways,
good.
okay, so you know how when we were raised, getting yelled at, things like that, getting on to us, things like that didn't really hurt us, affect us as much as it does other people. Kind of the way we were raised in sports, not at home. Mom and dad did a great job. We didn't ever, get berated and things like that. So I
I
don't
was
want
about
to
to say,
talk anybody
I was
under
about
the
to
bus.
say, I was about to say, shout out to child abuse and and toxic cult. No, but I'm kidding.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, but like coaches, they got to know who their players are. Some players react differently. Some players shut down when they get yelled at, when they get called out. They don't like that attention. Some players, they respond effectively to it. So really, Brooks might be that type of player that not necessarily likes getting yelled at, but definitely responds positively to things like that. Matt Wolf, probably got, coddled a little bit, especially as, child prodigy. You've been playing the same swing since you were 13. You've been a marvel in golf for a while. So people always have just always, kind of rode with you and no, Matt, it's your world. So for somebody to actually respond and actually get on his ass, he probably didn't like it at first. But he
Yeah.
knew what was up. He knew that he needed something to get him inspired again. And hopefully, that's what it was. But again, just like what we were talking about, Yankees is probably right. You can do that. You can call somebody out and get on their behind closed doors. You don't have to go to the press to tell millions of golf fans for that. That part is
Uh,
kind of crazy.
no, I think that's the one first point. I think that's the magic of Brooks Koepka, right? And I think that's
True.
why people were clamoring for him to be on the Ryder Cup team this year, just kind of as a side subject. But I think players respect him. There's a
Yeah,
certain
no, 100%.
thing that he brings to the table that it's hard to quantify, right? Some people are born leaders, right? And especially in a game
Yeah,
that
perfectly
is
said.
so individual, where you're just doing a lot of things for yourself. But, he played baseball. Brooks is not a born golfer. He was somebody who played
Yeah,
traditional stick and ball sports. Baseball was his thing at FSU, and just it was a natural transition into golf. So he's used to that. People calling
yeah,
other people to the carpet. So good fit for him to go over to live because that fits his personality. Um, and I think just if I'm being honest, or what if I'm reading the tea leaves, I'm pretty sure there were some call outs behind the scenes where he was like, "Hey man,
true.
you got to get your stuff together. You really, really, are not helping support the team in the way that we expected you to. When I picked you for this team, you're not
Very
doing
true.
what your talent dictates." And then I'm assuming we got to a point of frustration. Usually, the
To
public
where he
call
had
out
to go to
is,
the press. You know what? That's true. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
the
No,
call out
you're
is
right.
not usually the first symptom, right? That'd be pretty aggressive, and probably also
Very
why
true.
Matt Wolf has to respect it because it's like he tried to give
Yeah,
me deference and give me some respect and leave me with my dignity, and then I quit in the middle of a round. So, bro,
yeah. No, great point.
I gotta take you to the mat. I gotta go top rope on you if you're gonna do that. So
Yeah.
I think that's what we saw. And again, good
No,
on
no,
him
you're
to
right.
be able to, if Genghis is correct, and maybe he's seeing some signs, because I think he also mentioned in that article the results, right? So I think he ended up third that immediate week after the call out. And then the
Hmm.
following week, he was like 46th. So
Yeah,
again, I don't we talked about this before. We respect mental health and the struggles that people can have with that. It's real. There's no BS to that. People, are out there struggling with mental health, and it's even harder when you're an athlete with the spotlight on you. We absolutely understand that aspect of it. But I'm like, are you getting all the help? Are you indulging in all the resources that are available to you? Therapy,
right.
medication, whatever you need to manage to manage the highs and lows. Where from one week to the next, you go from top three to the bottom five in this league. It just, I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, 100%. You got to make sure you're doing the work on the outside. So if you're not making the steps to improve your mental, then of course you're still going to get called out for it, and it's always going to be an issue. So no, 1,000% agreed. And I mean, and you're right. I mean, because for it to get to the media, it probably was some steps before that. I didn't even think about that perspective, and that's the perfect way to put it for sure.
Yeah. And I'm just kind of going off how people react to Brooks. And,
Yeah, and how
you
Brooks
know,
works. Yeah, no.
yeah. And, I read something today about the top six people, kind of going to Zach Johnson's picks and how Kepka ended up on that team. And the automatic qualifiers, all to a man, said, "We want Brooks on this team." So that says a lot when you're competitors and people who know you in the locker room and know you from intimate moments and have played in Ryder Cups with you in the past, respect you despite your affiliation with another league that they vehemently disagree with. And, clearly all of these guys rejected the calls and the
Yep.
temptations to go over there, but still respect him, and not to say that they don't respect like a DJ or something, but again, he's still playing. He won a PGA championship this year,
Right. Literally.
and looks good and healthy. So
He,
they also live down there in Florida with him as well. So they're seeing him day in, day out practicing, and they know what he's bringing to the table. So
yep.
I'm I'm happy for Matt Wolf. I hope it just comes through in his game, and we get to see him return to form. He is a fun guy to watch. He plays a unique style of golf, but the things that he was doing with the golf ball, coming up out of college were pretty incredible. That swing was
Right.
unique, but once, all that matters is impact, right? And he would get to the point where you need to be to make proper impact and hit it well and consistent enough to win a professional tournament. So
Yep.
the talent is there. It's not from a lack of talent at all. Where are we at with the Cowboys right now? We're on commercial. We still 19-0, 26-0. The Cowboys, I'm going to flag.
Giants suck.
No, no, they were saying it was supposed to be the Giants' year, right? So I'm gonna flash
Hey,
that.
listen, brother. Yeah, flash it up there. But my thing about the Giants is, side note, Giants are very much like the Athletics a couple of years ago in baseball, the Mariners this year, last year, big P word, pretenders. Pretenders. You never
Yeah,
I'm not hearing it. What did they go last year? They had you tied
nine
with the
wins,
Colts of all
nine
teams.
and 9-7
Boo.
last year.
Yeah, bro. Get up, get no. No, bro. I never take the Giants here. It's between Dallas and Philly for the division, and whoever doesn't win the division is getting out, sliding in that wild card. Washington, they still a year away or whatever. They still in
Yeah,
QB turmoil. Exactly. Yeah, right. Who's on the defense? They got a D line. What do they got after that? They still have no secondary. They still have no linebacker core. I mean, what are we talking about? Again,
yeah.
I'm just gonna leave it at
I
that. I'm
don't
gonna
know.
be respectful because the Cowboys, I keep it
I know.
respectful.
I'm not ever gonna say it's our year, but if
Ever.
we can if we can stay healthy, if the Cowboys can stay healthy, it can be a very good year. Um, Yeah, they look good right
Agreed.
now. It's one game. Um, we'll see. We've been disappointed before. We've been disappointed since 1996. So
Truly.
you
Eight,
think about that, man.
the great eight
Like,
and eight, man. I hate even saying it. Ugh.
yeah. So anyway, man. So anything else golf or random you want to hit before we hop off?
Yeah, actually it was great because maybe the first day that the Irish Open was on, they went through and they did their promotional. They promoted for next season. Next season, the DP World Tour has 44 events. They're going
Wow.
in 3 phases. And so, well, I mean, they play pretty much year round because there's
Yeah.
such a global game. They can go wherever it is, and they very rarely are playing in, you know, 80s, 90s weather and very
Yeah.
much,
It's pretty
lower than
temperate.
60s and stuff like that. Very tempered wherever they're going. And then, of course, they start the year. in in Dubai and do the Middle East swing where it's going to be great weather anyway. So again, first phase, everybody's got a chance. Second phase, it's kind of like they have some hidden events in there. It's kind of like they call it the like legacy phase because it's like the BMW PGA Championship in the
Yeah.
UK. A lot of their like stalwart events, then they have raised prize pools in some of these elevated events. And
Love it.
overall, throughout the season, more money's being funneled in. And then, of course, phase three is their playoff phase, race to Dubai, the DP World Championship back over in Dubai and stuff like that. So again, it's what we harped on. You got to have a game plan. You got to promote it. You got to put the money where your mouth is. And hopefully it wasn't just, that the PIF fund that put money into it. Hopefully they did enough this year to where they could, do it organically and not have to worry about outside sources. Got some better sponsors in. BMW made more of a stance in the tour, like, hey, we want to put more money down. Or, whether it be Audi or whoever that car company is, or, whatever one of their title sponsors is,
Wherever the dollars are coming from. Yeah. I mean,
wherever it
when
may
you
be
look
coming
at it,
from.
when you look at the commissioners of each league and the kind of the faces, let's start with Greg Norman. I think he's gotten incredibly lucky um, within some certain investments and right timing.
Yeah,
His investment in kind of Cobra Golf at the time where it was blowing up, that turned into a lot of money for him. But do I think he's like an incredibly smart person? No. His words and
no, he's not
actions,
charismatic at all either. Yuck.
no, no. The words and actions say different. Even when you look at a Jay Monahan, you swing over to the PGA Tour. I don't think he's. I think he's got the people skills in the background. He doesn't
Yeah,
present very well. When you look at some of the press conferences and answers, he just kind of fumbles through things and doesn't do well in the under the bright lights. But I think with
right.
players, he's been able to forge some relationships and have
Yeah,
people, even after his fumbling through this whole, PIF and PGA relationship thing, he's still been able to salvage some public face and have people still stand up for him. But somebody who I think is incredibly smart, and I think if you're seeing this later, or look up Keith Pelly, the commissioner of the DP
right.
World Tour. I think the dude is
Mm-hmm.
an incredibly intelligent man, and when he speaks, it's value to what he says and doesn't talk out of turn. And when he does speak, he speaks with conviction and there is a message behind it. It's thought through. It is rarely
Yep.
off the cuff. So for them to be kind of planning quietly in the background, I think they probably see what we see. I saw a couple comments on the channel this week regarding the DP World Tour because I kind of put a poll up regarding if you only had one tour to watch for the rest of your life, what would it be? And no one voted on the DP World Tour. And I think that's just because, as we've said, it's been depleted in years past, and it's become a feeder
Right.
tour for really good players over there. Come over to the PGA Tour eventually, and that's just been the case. So it looks like they've tried to formulate a plan to keep some of these guys at home. We'll see in years to come if the Hoygaard brothers migrate over, if Adrian Maronk starts migrating over to the PGA Tour like full time, and that's a kind
Right.
of not so bold prediction here about Adrian Maronk. The next 2 years, you're going to see that man go on a tear. Um, Even though this wasn't on our list, we saw this earlier in the week. His comments regarding not being picked for the Ryder Cup leading into the Irish
Right.
Open and the passion around that man is about to tear up the golf world in the next 2 years. Just he's
Yeah.
not gonna put it. He's not gonna leave it to chance in the next
It's not gonna
Ryder
be a
Cup.
question
He's
at
gonna
all.
make it.
Yep. He gonna make it for
No,
sure. He gonna automatic
but
qualify. He ain't even gonna put it in there.
no, but yes, check out Keith Pelly. Intelligent dude. I think he's probably one of the sharpest sports commissioners out there. So it doesn't surprise me that you saw that announcement getting in there early with the plan. So
Yeah.
I hate that I missed
Mm-hmm.
that, but that's an awesome call out and but not surprising at all.
Yeah, just an upward trajectory, and that's all you're trying to do. You might have a down year or two, but as long as that trajectory is still, trending the right way, and you got the plans in the background to go the right directions, and you're making sure that the players are taken care of, and that the right sponsors are involved and stuff like that, the game plan is going to be there. And I'll talk to you about that. It's funny you brought up that poll because we talked about this so many years ago when we first started really like delving deeply into golf and becoming passionate about it. What did we always say? We were like, man, PGA Tour is boring. DP World Tour, though, man, we're getting it all. We get tree courses, then we get links courses. The greens aren't always just rolling 14, and you don't have to just putt your butt off. It just was so refreshing to catch a different grasp of golf besides Parkland, sped up golf with shaved banks and stuff like that. Every week you saw golf. That's
Yeah.
and maybe they get back to that. Maybe they get back to that. We'll see though. But
Maybe we
yeah,
see the
it's
Legacy
great.
DP Tour. Maybe we see that again. Yeah, I'm
We'll see.
looking forward to that. Even the course they played this week for the Irish Open, I was surprised at the style of course that they played, but it presented very
Right.
well on TV and was challenging. People were not scoring on that back nine. Yes, they were getting down and uh, opportunities for eagles on number 18, and a lot of people walked away with a couple of long putts for eagle and birdies. But overall, that back nine was not just giving, and it was set up, as a
Oh yeah.
Parkland style course, but yeah, I mean, yeah, you're 100% right. We fell in love with the DP World Tour. So shout out to that. The resurgence that hopefully it does come along and it seems like they are
Yep.
putting their best foot forward. Will it always work out? No, but if you have a plan and, a vision, you just try to execute on it, good things can happen. So that's our wish for the
Agreed.
DP World Tour. So I think that's a good sign off. And final note on this before we go: halftime, Cowboys 26, Giants Big Zero. That's a perfect sign off for today. Bearded Bros Golf Show. Back at it again next week. We'll be talking Fortinet Championship. I'm sure there will be some other auxiliary PGA Tour news. Solheim Cup,
Yep.
kind of getting ready for that. So it doesn't slow down. And then we kind of settle into this NFL thing. So we're out.
Heck yeah.
Peace.